can push someone's body too fast. And that's what ended up happening to my body. And so I was trying to heal it, but the approach that I was using was too much at once. And so it gave me this lesson in learning how to honor the body, and also this lesson in like the perfect storm that tends to happen to people, right? And I see this all the time in my office where it's like, oh, you got in like a fender bender, you got a little injury, no big deal. Oh,
Right.
you're dealing with this stress at work now. Oh, no big deal. Oh, we're dealing with this stress at home too. Not a big deal, but I'm starting to feel a little bit weathered. Everything's just kind of adding up. And then all of a sudden you have like an accidental mold exposure because your water heater leaks. And even though it wasn't that big of a deal, your system just goes and like blows up.
Right.
And now you're dealing with this pain. You're starting to have these like autoimmune reactions. And that's what I call the perfect storm for people, right? It's not like one specific thing that
Right.
caused a diagnosis. It's like the accumulation of things over years that ultimately reached your body's capacity for what I educate patients about called allostatic load. Allostatic load is basically the overall stress load you have on your body from the environment. It's basically the thoughts, traumas, toxins, things, the environment, your level of stress, and the physical duress that you're under. And so when people hit this perfect storm, sometimes things will arise in a way that they may not have with one of those items at a time. So I spend a lot of time educating my clients on really how to listen to their body, because, you know, for me, I like got injured and then all of a sudden I developed a dairy allergy. Who knew? Who would have thought? But that's the leaky gut thing that can happen after an injury, or intestinal permeability for the more scientific word. But essentially, it's like when your body goes into a state of inflammation to heal, that inflammation is a systemic response. And that means that your tissues are going to become more permeable as part of the immune response. It's how your immune cells get to the area to heal, but it's a systemic response. So that means that your gut is also becoming more permeable because you're in an inflamed state. And if your gut's more permeable, your brain barrier is probably also a little bit more permeable. So this is why
Interesting.
people will be like, you know, I got depressed after my injury and I just lacked motivation and I don't really understand why. And I address this with people all the time because I think we forget about the emotional and the grief component that comes with an injury, and just like not feeling like yourself. And then that causes stress. And it's like this whole cycle where everything interacts. And so that's where I focus a lot with people, is like teaching them how to listen to their body and realize when they're in a slightly inflamed state, not the inflamed state that would necessarily pertain to your diagnosis, but like, oh, you know, I had gluten and bread yesterday, and then I woke up this morning and all of a sudden my eyes were kind of puffy and I gained like 4 pounds overnight. That's kind of weird. We don't really gain weight like that. Like that's water weight, that's inflammation weight. So I start to
Right.
teach people like how to notice when their body is responding. Our bodies talk to us. It's just most of the time people never taught us how to listen. So that's a lot of what I do in my practice, is just teaching people how to catch things
Fascinating.
early so that we can prevent downstream things. And then you can create a sustainable lifestyle for yourself that actually works. Because if people come in and they have food sensitivities and I just tell them to never eat those things again, that's kind of unrealistic for people. So it's like,
Right.
I'd rather teach them how to work with their body and be able to communicate with it so they're not always dependent on somebody else. And I think when you can start to really learn how to work with your own system and understand it, that is true health, because health isn't really a destination. It's kind of a maintenance journey that we go on.